Donald Trump's second term feels less like politics, but more like a Netflix rerun. Since 1979, US presidents avoided Tehran like bad stock tips. Trump, he invested in chaos. First term, he torched Obama's nuclear deal, the JCPOA. Sanctions back. Iran's oil revenue, down 80%. Real, freefall. Tehran was reeling. Flash forward to 20th of June, 2025. Israel kicks off Operation Rising Lion with a formidable contingent of air power. It was their biggest strike on Iran since the 80s, with over 200 fighter jets and drones targeting Iran's military and nuclear sites, prompting an Iranian retaliation with Operation True Promise 3. Iran's locked in aerial combat with Israel. On 22 June, US firepower joins the fray with Operation Midnight Hammer. And just like that, Tehran realizes that their worst-case scenario has a name, Trump. But why exactly is there a long-standing conflict between Donald Trump and Iran? Saudi Arabia. Iran and Saudi Arabia, longtime rivals. Sectarian beef since 1979. Proxy wars in Yemen, Syria, and beyond. 2016, the Saudis executes Nim-Nim. He was a popular Iran-aligned Saudi activist. Saudi embassies torched. Diplomatic ties severed. Until 2023, China mediates a deal between the two nations in Beijing. But don't get it twisted. That truce, paper thin. Underneath, the rivalry's still boiling. Enter Trump, 2017. His first foreign trip, Riyadh. The Saudis pledges $600 billion in US investments over the years. Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law and key Middle East advisor in Trump's first term. Kushner lands $2 billion from Saudi's Public Investment Fund in 2021. Coincidence? Doubt it. Trump's Middle East policy summed up: talk peace, sell weapons, cash checks. Diplomacy, but make it a PayPal invoice. Qasem Soleimani. He was Iran's second-in-command and a key architect of Iran's proxy wars across the Middle East. He gets eliminated in January 2020 from a US drone strike. Trump claims responsibility. Following this, Tehran retaliates. Ballistic missiles hammer US bases in Iraq, causing limited damage and escalating tension. The decision to move the Israeli embassy to Jerusalem. In December 2017, Trump recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Moving the embassy signaled overt US recognition of Jerusalem, a move that rocked long-standing diplomatic norms and undermined the two-state framework. Iran, furious. Proof: Trump's not neutral. Tehran dials anti-US rhetoric to max. Now, with Trump's second term off to a fiery start, let's break it down. What are the objectives of all the players involved? And more importantly, how feasible are they? At the center of Trump's confrontation with Iran is one goal: stop the Iranians from developing nuclear weapons. But here's the question: is this a feasible and achievable mission in a high-stakes geopolitical game? And what about the aftermath? What happens when you actually try to pull off such a strategy? But first, let's break down Iran. What are they really about, and what's their endgame? Then, we'll stack up two rival strategies: diplomacy versus force, and ask the only question that matters. Are there any winners? First off, to understand Iran in the 21st century, we've got to hit rewind. Iran sits at the crossroads of Asia. It's home to one of the oldest continuous civilizations on Earth. There's a deep-rooted belief among Iranian elites, and plenty of ordinary citizens, that Iran's glorious past isn't just history. To them, it's a mandate, a reason why the country deserves a heavyweight role in both regional and global affairs. For centuries, a series of powerful dynasties ruled the Iranian plateau, keeping the Persian legacy alive. Then came the 7th century. Muslim Arab armies swept through, conquering the region and introducing Islam, a cultural shift that still echoes today. Fast forward to the early 20th century. Iran makes global headlines. Why? Oil. At the center of modern Iran, its resources like oil, strategic trade routes, and a determination to maintain sovereign Islamic rule. These aren't just policy choices. They're the fuel behind Iran's current place on the world stage. Inside Iran, leaders see themselves as guardians of a proud legacy, resisting Western dominance at all costs. From the outside, the world sees a defiant regional power, resource-rich, strategically placed, and deeply ideological. Iran's play isn't just about pushing the United States out of the Middle East. They want more. They want to fill the vacuum. So over the decades, Tehran's built a web of partners and proxies designed to shield Iran from direct attacks. This web, it's called the axis of resistance. Across the Middle East, Iranian influence flows through a network of militias: Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, and multiple well-armed groups in Iraq, Syria, and Bahrain. Most are branded terrorist organizations by Western states. But here's the kicker. Tehran keeps a layer of plausible deniability. Members of the Axis don't take direct orders from Iran. It's a loosely aligned alliance, not a command and control structure. Not all Axis members are created equal. At the center, Hezbollah. Formed in the 1980s, Hezbollah operates from southern Lebanon, posing a constant military threat along Israel's northern border. In Tehran, one assumption holds. Israel's endgame is to first destroy Hamas, then pivot north to crush Hezbollah. Iran's counterplay? Make any attack on Hezbollah so devastating that Israel thinks twice before turning its sights on Iran. At its core, Iran's strategy is defensive. It's about survival in a region stacked against it. And if that means crossing the nuclear threshold to protect itself, well, Tehran might see that as not a choice, but a necessity. Now, let's take a look at potential strategies that are available to the US. Firstly, the US understands that a military strategy is not of any good use because it won't remove Iran's capability. It'll delay them, not destroy their program. It strikes a blow to US diplomatic credibility, both in the Middle East and globally. But with Tehran's alliances shifting and its defenses evolving, the US and potentially Trump faces fewer clear-cut options. The question isn't just what to do about Iran's nuclear program, but whether any approach will still matter. While Iran hasn't crossed the nuclear threshold line yet, they're close enough to use their nuclear capability as leverage. For Iran, the program isn't just a deterrent, it's a bargaining chip. They're likely to negotiate from a position of strength, not desperation. Since Trump was last in office, Iran has strengthened ties with Russia and China. These partnerships aren't symbolic, they're tactical. The three nations are coordinating to bypass US sanctions. Military and tech exchanges are accelerating. Trade between them is expanding despite international pressure. That means any future sanctions campaign won't isolate Iran the way it once did. The global economic chessboard has changed. Trump has options, but none are clean. The map has shifted, the stakes are higher, and the window to act is narrower than before. One alternative: economic cooperation. Iran holds vast, untapped oil and gas reserves. Decades of sanctions have left infrastructure underdeveloped. Trillions in investment would be needed. For a deal-maker mindset, that could be the opening. Economic incentives, not threats, might offer the most strategic leverage. Whether through pressure, partnership, or something in between, the next move will shape the US-Iran dynamic for years. So far, Donald Trump has revived the so-called maximum pressure playbook. Sanctions, airstrikes, rhetoric that roars louder than diplomacy whispers. It makes headlines at home but risks locking the US into endless reactive cycles, not meaningful stability. Even Trump's letter to Iran's supreme leader, threatening war while offering talks, fell flat. Tehran dismissed it as a bad faith move, another bait and switch after Trump abandoned the JCPOA. To them, it felt like diplomacy dressed up as coercion. The truth is, the Middle East has never known real stillness. From empires to oil fields, proxy wars to power vacuums, this region has always been the stage for someone else's ambition and someone else's retaliation. Centuries have passed, borders have changed, leaders have risen and fallen, but the pattern holds. Power struggles dressed as politics, religious tensions hardened into fault lines. Today, nothing's changed. Only the tools have. Drones instead of swords. Sanctions instead of sieges. Social media instead of smoke signals. But the outcome? The same. Blood, bluster, and unfinished business. Even as peace talks stall and missiles fly, the region resets to its default setting: conflict. Not because it wants to, but because every actor in play believes they can rewrite the ending in their favor.